This video contains long rants. Enjoy. Or don't. I don't care.
Hey there everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Switch Report. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's probably going to get a little heated down in the comments section. But I think it's something that needs to be discussed, and so I'm going to talk about it. So I was going to do a review today, and then I saw that this news came out, and I have my own opinions about it. And I see that a lot of content creators have been talking a lot about the negative, but not the positive repercussions of microtransactions. So yes, you heard that right. We're going to be talking about microtransactions. I know that generally doesn't have to do entirely with the Switch, but it deals with gaming in general. It deals with the whole gaming ecosystem. So I'm going to be discussing the actual bad and good things of microtransactions. Now, I'm going to center in this video on the positive aspects because I think that a lot of people are hammering home the negatives and just beating up, but not giving any meat to the reason why. So let's go ahead and hop right into it, guys. The article that all the articles that I reference in this video are going to be down in the comments below, and I'll be saying what websites they are, and then I'll just be referencing them. I'm not going to read the whole article. If you want to read the whole articles, you can go down to the comment section and read them yourself. Alright, so I noticed the first article that I saw was by The Verge discussing a new bill that's being proposed. So on Wednesday, Senator Josh Hawley announced that he would be introducing a bill banning manipulative design features in video games with underage audiences, including the sale of loot boxes. The legislation would, if approved, prohibit the sale of loot boxes in games targeted at children under the age of 18. Games marketed towards wider audiences could also face penalties from regulators like Federal Trade Commission if companies knowingly allow children to purchase these randomized crates. Now, there's a little bit of wordplay here, and I'm going to discuss that really quick. So first off, you see they mention kids really heavily. That's mainly because a lot of the people that are on the board of legislatures that are going to be deciding this are actually older men and women that generally don't play video games. They don't have their toes dipped into that ecosystem. And the issue here is the fact that they're using kids as a get out of jail free card pretty much, and because they want a lot of leeway. Obviously, they're trying to nudge them to pass this bill, and using kids is always just kind of it's a Trojan horse. I mean, they're going in there with a different intent. So using kids and then saying that it's marketed towards wider audiences could face penalties if they knowingly allow the sale of microtransactions to kids. So the issue here is pretty much no one's ever going to know when it's the kid that's getting the microtransactions. I mean, that's the thing. It's a really stupid term, honestly. When you think that everyone has their kid set up with, of course they may have like a setting of parental lock on, like, say, an Xbox or PS4 where you have like the codes and all that. But as far as actually restricting online access, I mean, a kid can go to a store, purchase a PlayStation card, and then literally just purchase it there. I mean, it's not hard. Like, they'll never be able to properly monetize the fact of who is purchasing that. And that's the issue here. I think that's what's going to affect microtransactions in general. And yes, there are a lot of bad microtransactions, but there are also good parts. So I'm going to go over a little bit of information that discusses inflation in the gaming industry. And I think inflation is something that has been hit home a couple of times, but I want to go back over it. And in one video, I'm going to try to get inflation and then today's gaming landscape and why microtransactions are so beneficial to today's gaming landscape. So let's dive right into it. Games have cost $60 for a very long time. Last time that we saw games have a price hike has been it's been quite a long, I think since the PS2. And that was at $50. But here's the thing. Everything has changed through the years with inflation. except for the general end consumer cost of that video game. So no matter what, like Horizon Zero Dawn cost $60, yet on a PS2 it would have probably cost $50. Now here's the issue with that. Games cost a lot of money to make. And I mean a lot of money to make. But as minimum wages raised, as the cost of licenses increased over the years, and all this stuff inflated, we never saw a change to the end consumer's price point. Especially, now here's the kicker here. Especially when you have so many pieces of the pie that are being taken from that developer. Like, developers don't see even 80% of the profit from that game. Like, when you buy a $60 game, you're probably giving the developer $12. You're not giving them very much, honestly. That's why they have to sell millions to break even. Because video games cost more and more and more to make over the year. There have been a couple of exceptions, like Final Fantasy VII. I mean, that cost, with the marketing budget, it was $145 million. In today's money, that would... God. Let's see, I've got an inflation calculator right here. If you're talking $145 million back in... What was that game released? 1998? Around that time. 98, 97, right around that time. You're talking, holy cow, you're talking 22, oh wait, actually I missed a 5 there. Whoop. You're talking $226,910,374. That's a super expensive game. Most games didn't cost that much back then. They still cost a lot. But that gets my point across, where like games cost a lot of money to make. And so I'm going to actually be referencing a article by, it's on IGN, it's by Colin Moriarty. It was back in 2013. And if you actually look, I'm just going to be using this small piece. In this whole article, he talks about, he has a couple of charts that discuss like the Atari 2600 all the way to the Xbox 360 and Xbox One, the cost of video games and inflation rates from then to now. Like an Atari 2600 in 1977 was $199. In today's rate, that was an inflation rate of 258.9%, $771.83 in 2013. So that's probably around $800 today for an Atari 2600. That's pretty crazy. But I'm just going to be referencing this part. If you want to read the rest of it, it's a really good read. He's a great guy. He has his own YouTube channel called Colins Last Stand. It's a really good YouTube channel, and you should definitely check it out. So, it says, I've made the argument over the last few years that games are essentially cheaper than they've ever been. An NES game in 1990 cost an average of about $50. That's $89 in 2013 money. Your $70 N64 cartridge in 1998 would require the equivalent of $100 today. Heck, $50 PlayStation 2 games you bought in 2005 is worth $60. The exact price of a typical retail game in 2013. This isn't to say salaries or hourly pay have kept up with the inflation and cost of living. It decidedly hasn't. But it is to say that dollar to dollar over the past 35 years, gaming hardware and software is generally cheaper than ever. That right there says most of it. Like I said, Colin Moriarty, he's great. You should definitely take a read through the rest of this, but that says a majority of what I need to explain to you guys. So, games technically cost cheaper than ever for the end consumer nowadays. But everything else has gotten more expensive for developers. I mean, if we take a look at God of War, the new one on PS4, that game took 5 years to make. Right here, it says it right there on Games Radar. So it says that God of War took 5 years to make. And God of War 3... Oh, I hit the microphone. God of War 3 took right around 3 to 4 years to make. Now, here's the thing. God of War 3 took $44 million to make. Now, God of War is estimated to have probably cost right around, I think it was like $104 million. And the development team is 3 times larger than it was in God of War 2. Now here's the thing. If that game cost $50 then, and then we're now technically seeing games cheaper than ever, the offset of that is crazy. They are expected to sell more than ever because of the fact that you have smaller margins, because you have so many things that are taking pieces of the pie from a developer. So of course you have the cost of the development team, you have the cost of the licenses, but then as percentages go, you have to pay for the manufacturing of cases, and then printing, shipping to a distributor, then the distributor gets their percentage, then it sends to a retailer, the retailer gets their percentage, and then it goes to the consumer. And then, after all the licensing, after all the distributing, after the retail sales marketing that they're paying for, you then have the piece of the pie that's left for the developer. And it gets a little better on the digital front whenever you discuss like Steam and Epic Games. I know there's a huge debate right there. And at the end of the day, it's because video games cost so much more to make nowadays, and that there's so little margin to actually make money for the developers now. That's why a lot of people have been going towards that route. I mean, everyone wants a return on their investment. Like a publisher wants their team wants to get their team paid, but most importantly, they want to make money. That's the end game of video games in general. And video games are something that I love, but the market has become more and more volatile over the years. People have been bashing loot crates, loot boxes, and microtransactions in general all the time. But if these games are making so much less money nowadays, and the cost of developers, you got to think, if God of War has 270 devs working on it, that's just the devs, that's not the art designers, that's not marketing, this is just going to be the cost of devs. And through Quora.com, it shows that this is just someone commenting, but I've seen this is very close to what the current market rate is. And it says the budget is right around $15,000 per developer per month. Okay? All right. So this is where things are going to get a little bit crazy. So if you take 270, multiply that by 15,000, then right there, that's 4 million. But that's per month. That's the crazy part. That took 5 years to make. So let's just say it took exactly 5 years. I mean, it could be a little less, could be a little more. It's probably a little more, knowing development times for games nowadays. God of War 3 took about 3 years, and so God of War 5 took 5 years. I mean, that's 2-year difference. I mean, and games, just with the graphical fidelity of them, they take more and more art designers and everything to make. But, so you're going to have to take the $4,050,000 and then multiply that by 60. $243 million. I was probably way off with my number before when I said $104 million. It's just, games cost a lot to make. It costs more and more to make, especially when you have more developers. 270 developers is a lot. So, yeah, whenever you discuss video games, we are getting a really good value considering all the time and effort that goes into these games, but they have to expect a larger return. They have to expect more sales, so they have to put more behind marketing, so then that's more money. Games just cost a lot to make. And granted, God of War PS4 sold a lot of units, and I'm sure they made money. I mean, there was a licensing deal there, so I'm sure that maybe the $150 million mark is where that game landed more too, just because it was developed in-house and that they've been working with that studio for so long. But it doesn't change the fact that games cost a lot to make. So with that being said, loot boxes come in where because we're getting a good deal, they need to try to ensure that their company stays afloat. Because if they don't get a return on their investment, people are just going to end up going away, and studios are going to get shut down. And no one wants that. I mean, I'm honestly afraid for BioWare. Granted, BioWare has not been doing a great job, but even then, I mean, they were once like such an amazing developer. And EA is no stranger to just liquidating companies. I mean, they have gotten rid of tons of developers. So, since we haven't seen a price raise, there has to be a way to offset that. Microtransactions are the way to offset that. Because whenever you discuss microtransactions, people tend to think that they're just a way that you get an unfinished game. But if I take something like Mortal Kombat 11 and talk about how people are so mad that game has microtransactions, it's pretty moronic, honestly. People are just kind of being assholes because they're saying that they're getting an unfinished game and that it's totally unfair. They're not getting an advantage from purchasing those, and plus, almost all of those skins in that game you can earn by just playing it. And you don't have to get those skins. It's like, yeah, you may think those skins are cool, but in the end, if you enjoy the game so much and you believe that you've gotten your $60 of entertainment out of it, then quit bitching. Literally, pay the $4 or $5, because these people have put hard time and effort into these games, and it's terrible that people are bashing them because, honestly, I mean, people keep saying, oh, it's good for the developers when they make money. I mean, I love when developers release a fully fledged game. I mean, you can't say Mortal Kombat's not a fully fledged game. That game has tons of passion, and it's a beautiful fighting game. And just because it came out and didn't have any microtransactions in it, doesn't mean that it's inherently a bad or unfinished game. It just means that they need a guarantee for the return on investment. If they can't get a return on investment, then NetherRealms could go out of business. I mean, literally, that's what could happen. And no one wants that to happen. I mean, where would we be without, like, do you want to live in a world where we don't have Mortal Kombat? Would you want to live in a world where, like, we don't have all the just think of any game that you love that just happens to have microtransactions. Would you just want that game to not exist because it doesn't have microtransactions? Those studios could shut down if they didn't have the income of that money. Because they have such large development teams, and development teams get bigger and bigger and bigger. And honestly, I don't see why people are so upset when a game is good, but it happens to have microtransactions. If it's being like super snobby about it, like one game I didn't totally agree with was like something like Shadow of War, where they did the thing where you could progress. I mean, it's still not terrible, but like a game like Elder Scrolls Blades now, I mean, you're opening just going around the world, it's like every 20, 30 seconds I'm getting a question about spending money. That's too much. I mean, that's literally, I think, lazy game design and asking for too much, especially because that company is hurting right now. They should really be trying to please their fans, especially when they release a broken mess like 76. But still, microtransactions have their negative connotations. Yes, like they can be deceitful. If you may get pissed because you spent $50 and you still didn't get what you wanted. But I mean, that's the nature of the beast. But you got to also remember that $50 went towards keeping that team together and keeping them open and letting them continue to develop that game. You may hate Fortnite, but Fortnite makes a lot of money. And honestly, People Can Fly, the development studio, helped make Fortnite. And they were like struggling. Bulletstorm did not sell very well. And they were going to work on a Duke Nukem game. And I don't know where that whole development project is now, but I know for a fact that if they wouldn't have gotten the success of Fortnite, they probably wouldn't be here today. And Fortnite it's not my cup of tea, but people love that game. And it's pretty much become a cultural phenomenon. And because of the microtransactions inside of that, that's saved multiple studios probably that are at Epic Games. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, they were able to hire on more people, hire on more teams, get more content rolling out to that game. And same goes for a game that you pay $60. Fortnite may be free and it's getting all these updates, but not every free game gets success. I mean, a lot of free games end up getting shut down. So you have all these games that end up going through these processes. I mean, even a $60 game is not making all that money, especially when you purchase that game digitally or physically, especially physically. You have more chunks of the pie being taken. And don't get me wrong, I'm a total physical guy. I love physical games. But I wouldn't be opposed to, say, a $10 increase in my game. If that makes the percentage to where the developer goes from getting $12 to $22, that's totally fine. I can buy one less game a year for that. One or two less games. I mean, whatever. I mean, I want to play as many games as possible, but it's the games that are really great that I want to see thrive. And if I have to pay a little more money, I mean, that is what it is. I mean, it's about time for inflation, honestly. Like, sure, I'm happy paying $60 for a game or less, but I don't want to see a developer go away because I want to be cheap with my money. And I don't know how you guys feel, but that's personally how I feel. And yeah, you can hate loot boxes as much as you want, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of games that actually kind of rely on these, and it's not because they're unfinished, it's because this games as a service has almost become a necessity to increase revenue for those companies, to guarantee return on, because if they don't see a high enough return on investment, or if they lose money especially, you can damn well guarantee that we're not getting that game, a sequel to that game, or you may not see that studio make another game. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want that. I want as many, especially good games, to come out, and I want to be able to pay them for their hard work and piece of art. Because for me, God of War, I would have paid $100 for that game if I knew it was that good. If I had a button or in that game, I could have, if they would have come out with DLC, or they would have just had a donation button for the development team, I would have done it. I love that game. I love Spider-Man, The Last of Us, Uncharted 4. These are amazing games, and these are single player. That means, like, their reliance on making money is even heavier. That means that they have to have a massive marketing budget, and they have to literally try to make all the money possible, squeeze that out there, and that's okay. Because those games are amazing. And even these multiplayer games, even Call of Duty. Not everyone liked Call of Duty. I think it's a fun game from time to time. But even then, it's like they put those microtransactions in there not because they want to piss you off. Clearly, they don't want to piss the people that are keeping their doors open off. They're doing it out of necessity. And some of it is probably greed. But that's part of the game. That's like, whenever you deal in this game, I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to make money. Is what it is. If I could pay $70 for a great AAA game, I'll easily pay that. $70, $80, whatever. Alright, so before I start rambling on any more, guys, that's just how I feel. And let me know what you guys think. Let me know, do you agree with that? Do you think I'm out of my freaking mind? Or are you willing to pay the $70, $80 for a game? Or do you think that microtransactions are just the devil and should go away? Alright, guys. So, is what it is. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Please comment down below. I'll read everyone and I'll try to respond to each one. Alright. You guys have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you next time. Switch Report out.